Many pop culture references use the famous Schrödinger's cat to explain some complicated quantum phenomenon, but the whole point of the thought experiment is to illustrate how absurd it actually is. Schrödinger's intention was to show the flaws of quantum mechanics, yet its meaning is completely misinterpreted nowadays. So in this video, we will go over what quantum mechanics and the superposition phenomenon is, what Schrödinger's cat is, and how superposition actually works. Starting with quantum mechanics, it is the study of things as small as atoms. Everything that we interact with follows classical mechanics, where we use laws and equations to predict motion. So when we flip a coin, if we know the air resistance, the strength of the flick, the weight of the coin, and everything else, we can predict exactly what side it will land on. However, in quantum mechanics, there are no exact measurements. Everything is down to a probability. So, when we flip a quantum coin, there might be a 70% chance to land on tails, it might disappear into thin air, I can make more things up, but we don't know what will happen. This brings us to the idea of superposition, which states that a quantum particle can exist in two states at the same time, and it will collapse into one of the states when we observe it. So the quantum coin is both heads and tails at the same time, and it will instantly become heads or tails the moment we observe it. Schrödinger, an Austrian physicist who pioneered quantum mechanics, thought it was an absurd idea, which it was. This idea was known as the Copenhagen interpretation at the time, so he proposed the famous Schrödinger's cat thought experiment. If we put a cat in a box and a quantum device that can either kill the cat or leave the cat be, the cat is then both alive and dead. There is a 50% chance that the cat lives and a 50% chance that the cat dies, so it's in a superposition of being alive and dead. But when we open the box, we can see whether the cat is alive or not. So the superposition collapses into either the cat being alive or the cat being dead once we observe it. Schrödinger used this example to illustrate how flawed the Copenhagen interpretation is, since this can apply to everything. Our friend can be in the superposition of drinking bubble tea or not drinking bubble tea. Following this logic, this state will collapse into them drinking it or not drinking it the moment we ask them. So how does superposition actually work? It's pretty close to the Schrödinger's cat experiment. When we put the hypothetical cat in the box, it would have been killed or spared before we even checked the box. Quantum mechanics doesn't wait for us to check in on them. They have already done their interactions and collapsed the superposition state before we observed them. This means that the cat isn't in the state of being alive or dead, it is already alive or dead. Our friend is already drinking bubble tea or finally decided to save some money. We don't need to ask them in order for them to decide the outcome. And there we have it. As probably one of the most misunderstood experiments in physics, Schrödinger's cat was made to argue against the theory of superposition, not supported. Quantum mechanics studies the world of atoms, which is governed by the rules of probability rather than Newton's laws of motion. Superposition is still the state of being two different states at once, but the state will collapse into one of the two states regardless of us observing them or not. The cat doesn't need to be observed for it to be dead or alive, so the next time we explain superposition, let's use a different analogy. I hope that you all have learned something interesting today. Thank you for your time, and stay hydrated.